3, 2. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 30 something. I always forget to look. Well, not always, but we're back. Got Bryce here. The other guys are working. Pray for Kyle. He's got monster in his face again. Poor guy. But he'll be all right. He'll get through it.
COVID square.
Phil is taking he's the world police, so he's making sure that everyone's safe. A lot of crazy stuff. Bryce, any update for you? What's going on with you?
Oh, man, we don't have enough time for that. Who asked me? Somebody asked me that this weekend. Justin asked me that this weekend. I had to think. I was like, anything new with me? I was like, I'm not used to being asked that. And I was like, well, since you asked, partner. I was like, how much time you got? And we were just sitting there and just talking. So, no, health stuff, man. Just trying to be a good steward of my health.
Got a blood test today?
Yep.
And make sure you don't have the diabetes?
Yeah, anymore. We'll see. Yeah, that'll be interesting. See if my A1C went down. So.
Yes. So you take care of take care of your body. If anything, here's a thing. We're all heading down, but it doesn't have to be as fast as an incline or a decline, right?
As the rest of the people.
Yeah. So
I know. And
take care of yourself.
That's the talk about like you pendulum, right? When godly people do ungodly things, and I'm like, the way I could devour a tray of Pillsbury cookie dough is pretty ungodly, you know, or amazing depending on how fast, so it's like, learning about sugar is really crazy and just how ungodly it is. He created something good and sweet, right? His sugar, his natural ingredient, and the way we've processed it, it's killing it. I don't know. That's another podcast, a whole nother.
We'll bring in someone healthy to talk about that.
Yeah, granola, organic friends.
If you like, we're going to get to the thing in a second, but if you like chocolate chip, Sam Drake, I'm calling her out right now. You guys got to ask her to make, you need her to make her chocolate chip cookies. Yeah. Hands down, the best chocolate chip cookie I've ever had. I will stand on that. So good job, Sam. Thanks for blessing my family. Blessing me. I don't know if any of my family needed them.
I had Emma and Jari over on Friday, and I have a cheat sweet. And what I mean by that is I just take heavy whipping cream and a sugar-free Jell-O packet and mix it together and make like a fluff, kind of like.
With your zzz thing?
No, we have one of those mixers that you're supposed to make real food in.
You're fancy.
And wedding gift. And
how long you been married, Bryce?
It'll be 7 years this year.
7, guys.
Married 7, together 8.
Man.
Yeah. So, longest commitment I think.
The longest marriage I've had.
Longest commitment that I've been a part of, because it was Verizon for a very long time, and then we cut that, and now we have AT&T. So.
Haley's dominating then. Good job, Haley.
So, but no, we had them over ambrosia. It's kind of like an ambrosia. And I gave some to Jari, and he immediately was like, "This is nasty."
Yeah.
I'm like, it works for me.
But all right. So jumping into food, I hope you eat well today. We started a brand new series, When Godly People Do Ungodly Things. And just thinking about it, our first one right out the gate is Jesus telling this parable, or this story, not parable, the story of people who said, "I want to follow you, but." And I think that's probably the biggest scary thing is I want to follow you, but. And whatever comes next is your idol. Let's just make it very clear. You don't have to have this shrine set up in your closet or in your house that you go and bow down to. These are things that take more time, talent, energy, resources, focus, that take you away from God. We're not saying, please don't misunderstand. We're not saying you got to be a monk or a nun and go hang out in a monastery or whatever they're called. But I think the big thing is asking yourself, is what we're doing moving towards godliness, or is it not? That's ultimately the big question. I think
the question that you could pose is, if God did ask you to do those things, though, if he said, nope, monastery, bunker, whatever, would you? Because that's how I gauge whether or not something's an idol in my life.
But I don't, and this is me making a stance, probably premature, but I'll say it. I don't think God will call you to something that you're doing by yourself.
I don't think God would call you to do something.
That it doesn't involve other people, that it doesn't involve you connected to people, that it doesn't I think we were created for community, we were created to belong and matter, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I would say is like, I get it. Those are really cool in separating themselves for ministry, but we don't see that biblically.
Yeah.
Like we don't see David separating himself. We don't see even there was a couple guys who were like, oh, I'm the only one. And God's like, no, I have 5,000 other prophets who are hiding away in caves. You're not the only one, and you need to be around them. So that would be my argument.
I think that's a great like overall picture, big picture for it for sure to like help you understand. But I think it's a good gauge or calling for you to like, are you going to be obedient if God was to call you? Because he could. And
okay.
he can,
yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, and that's where I think like I gauge. I ask this to single people all the time because I asked it to myself at once upon a time. So it's not like, oh, it's easy for you to say that because you're married. No, I asked myself this when I was single. If God was to sit here and say, I want you to be single the rest of your life, just me and you, would you be okay with that? Your heart response to that, I think, shows what you idolize. And if you understand that the gift is from the gift giver, right, as opposed to the gift being the ultimate gift itself. So I think those are just good gauges to sit there and ask yourself. Because, I mean, your first question here, are you where you imagine you'd be right now?
In following Christ, yeah.
In following Christ, well, ask that. Why not? How come? What's preventing me? And I think the idols in our lives are huge blocking stones to that, right? Whether it's the kids, whether it's the jobs, all the things that you listed out, right? And not understanding like the number one priority in that. And I think that's where a lot of Christians, even proclaiming, I'd say saved Christians, get taken off track or knocked off course because they don't realize what they've become very comfortable in their salvation. I don't know if comfortable is the right word. Complacent. There you go. Yeah. In their salvation, that they forget. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I see it all the time. But I watch professing
Have a great
Christians idolize their family, idolize their marriages, idolize their spouse, idolize their jobs, and it's like, take that same effort. I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I would love to see Christians take that same effort, that same angst, that same energy, and apply it to go make a disciple. Make yourself a disciple. Subject yourself to discipleship in the same way that you approach your family, approach work, approach your fantasy league, approach you name it, whatever it is.
Your hobby.
Right? And I'd just be so curious to see if we as the church, like if we were to ask everyone to come up and be like, what is it for you? What is that?
I thought about that.
And then say, okay, let's take your zeal, let's take your passion, let's take your energy, let's take all of that. Now apply it here. You have the power of the Holy Spirit. God's giving you everything you need to do this. Watch what shifts. Right. And watch the hearts and minds go, oh, I don't want to. Oh, it's not a struggle, right? We talk about this all the time. Oh, I struggle with sin. No, you willfully give into it.
Yeah.
I think the same mindset could be said about like, hey, one, I'll give benefit of the doubt. You're not guilty. You're not guilty of what you don't know.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, as to why they also don't come to church, avoid wanting to know, because once you know, now you have to do something with it.
I think that fear of accountability is probably a big thing of really there's millions of excuses out there, but obviously we have the opportunity to overcome them and let our testimony be, this is what the world was calling me to do, my flesh, my desires, my whatever, but this is how the Spirit led me. And I think about what you say is probably another way to say it is, if we put as much effort into our exertion of doing what God told us to do as we do into making excuses for it, then you would already be 10 miles down the road in that movement. Say it's like something is simple, and we say simple as Bible reading. I mean, how many excuses have we heard about Bible reading, Bryce? I'm busy. I'm not a good reader. Yeah. Well, you weren't a good car driver, but you practiced that, and now you're pretty good at it. You weren't a good golf swinger or a golfer, but you practice and put time into that. So I think a lot of those is like, oh, I'm not a good reader, unless you're literally like super highly dyslexic, and you're like, maybe someone never literally taught you to read. I get it, but even then, you can listen well.
No, and you know what I say to that? As somebody who was a D average F student all throughout school, who hated reading, never read a single book, right? One, like paying attention and realizing like, yeah, what we read matters, right? If you're not 100%. Interested in it, like, cool.
Yeah.
And I had a cousin who said, pray before you read. Have you ever tried that? Like asking God for help? And I'm like, I think it goes without saying, right? No. Like, you wouldn't ask your spouse, he said, like, love me. Like, you'd communicate to them, like, I wish you hugged me more, hold my hand or whatever. He goes, have you ever prayed and asked God for help before you read? And I was like, no. And I remember trying it. And some of you have heard the story before. I remember opening my Bible to Matthew 1. And what's the first chapter of Matthew 1 but the genealogy of Christ? And I'm like, I can't read these names. I remember getting flustered and mad and upset. And I just remember feeling this, calm down, keep going.
Yeah.
Calm down, keep going. And so it's like, okay, like, ask, this is where like the leaning on the Holy Spirit and Christ like really comes in. Okay, cool. So you can't read, but guess who can?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you can't retain well. Cool. But guess who can? Like, that argument of I'm not a good reader or I have dyslexia or I have ADHD, like, do you know me? Like, yeah. And if the power of the Holy Spirit in asking and submitting myself because I want to know him or I want to pursue him, his word says, if you seek me, you will find me.
And I think that's the problem right there, the seeking, right?
Sure.
Because again, I don't like reading. Read with someone else then. Like, they'll keep you on track and focus. And I think there's always, again, I think to every single excuse across the face of the planet, there's always an answer. But the wisest thing for me to do is if I can't, I go ask someone else to help me, right? What's the wisest thing to do? Probably for you to get in the community and say, here's what I want to do.
What does this mean?
Help me out.
Yes.
I'm reading this or I'm not reading this or I struggle with this. Bryce, can you help me? And I get it. Probably I didn't go into it much, but it probably goes into the thing of being a needy creature, right? We're needy, and that's okay. But I think one of those, that's just with the Bible reading. Bible memorization, we've heard it too, even in our D groups. I can't memorize that. You're right. You can't because you already told yourself you wouldn't. But if this is important to you and this is of value to you and you see some benefit and some growth out of it, we don't make excuses for things we don't make excuses for things we want to do.
No.
Period. But that is a big thing of like where we land in that is, are we getting into the place and time of making ourselves available? Are we saying yes to Jesus, but we're not doing it? And are we holding ourselves accountable to it?
Your question here, where'd it go? Is what is Jesus asking me to do? Is what I'm doing godly or ungodly? Would Jesus be pleased, honored, and worshiped by me right now? Am I the disciple of Christ He's called me to be? I can't imagine. I was thinking while I was sitting there in your message of like getting to heaven, and God and Jesus goes, "Did you spend time with me?" Mm. And these excuses, trying to tell him that, and I'm just like, how embarrassing. Like, how embarrassing. And I have a hard time thinking that he's going to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, remind me your name again.
Yeah. Oh.
Right?
Depart from me, for I never knew you.
And so it's like, think about this, man. Like, again, like we put effort and time into so many other things that we like and want and are interested in. It's like, it's a revealing of the heart and where we get to come alongside and make it a discipleship moment of like helping you see. So again, I think you started off the sermon by great. This isn't a beat you over the head. This isn't a do better. This isn't a you suck, but it's helping you realize your heart towards God, right? Because if you read, right, we just celebrated what his heart towards us was, right? Like, and how beautiful. I think he knows that we could never, ever do anything in return.
Yeah, we can't replicate it. Sure.
Right. But it's like, man, like if I pursued my job the way I pursue Christ, if I pursued my wife the way I pursue Christ, or I should say the way some of you do, like I don't think I'd be married. I'm almost certain. I think I'm almost certain I wouldn't be employed. Like if I treated my mortgage the way that I see some people treat Christ, like I probably wouldn't have a home, right? If I treated my taxes the way, right, I'd probably be thrown in jail for tax evasion, right? Like imagine that, tax evasion, right? So
evasion is an excuse. Maybe that's what it is. An excuse is an evasion to not do what you know you need to do.
Or supposed to, yeah.
Or supposed to do.
So yeah.
But I think it comes down to it, like I really wanted to focus a lot on the whole thing of the backside of it, of him saying, if you want to be my disciple, this is what it looks like.
Count the cost.
And I think that counting the cost is something that an excuse puts away. I know this is going to cost me a lot, so I'm going to make an excuse as to why I won't do this. I'm not going to serve because this is my time. And I'm like, oh, that possessiveness is, I'm not going to give financially because this is my money. And it always revolves back to my, I. And I think about these guys, the one who got married, the one who bought the oxen, the one who bought the field. It's like a possession thing of like, I maybe deserve this. I'm owed this. And I think it ruins that grateful heart of like, God, thank you for the breath you gave me. God, thank you for the wife. Thank you for the kids. Thank you for my job. Thank you for this body you gave me. Thank you for these things that I have. They're all yours. And whatever you ask me to do is going to be the safest thing. Even when it feels like you're, quote unquote, burning the ships, right? Okay, burn the ships. Don't you think God can build a different ship?
It reminds me of when the devil tried tempting Jesus and he promised all the exact same things. To your point of what you just said, my oxen, my land, my feast, my wedding, right? My marriage, whatever. And it's like, it almost makes you wonder, like, again, like, and I think this is where it's important to realize, like, okay, do you worship the gift or the giver more? Because the devil offered Jesus a lot of the same things, right?
Literally everything.
And so you're like, reality check, like, just a good heart check of, and the excuses, right, of acknowledging that. And so I don't know, that's just where my head just went now of like, man, like even some of these things that we idolize, like, do we realize, like,
so do you think the excuses we offer is because we are running after something that Satan has promised that he can't give? Because he always overpromises, but he always underdelivers.
Well, so
and Jesus, he says, hey, I think Jesus goes out the way. He says, this is very clear. This is what I told you. If you don't hate your brother, sister, mom, spouse, whatever, and come after me, you're not worthy of the cross. If you don't take up your cross, you're not worthy of me. You're not worthy to be called my disciple, because a disciple looks like Christ, not like you.
Yeah, a disciple isn't wrapped up in marriage. A disciple isn't wrapped up in their identity, isn't in their career, money, all these things. It's simply Jesus. So
their image. I think that's a big thing too.
Well, all of it, image, identity, you name it, right? And so it's like, it makes me think of, and I know his heart meant well, but it was cute, and I wonder how many other people were sitting there going, oh, son, you don't know what you're asking for. But we had a baptism this weekend, and he was like, hey, I would love to see the fruition of God's plan in my life of being a husband and being a father and being joyful in marriage, right? And I just remember, like, I was sitting there, and I was like, yeah, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. Like,
being joyful in marriage means you're a lead servant. How about that?
Well, not only that, but like just the innocence, right? Of the request. And how many people, I think, and maybe that's where it is, right? This innocent pursuit of, I love these things.
Yeah, right? Which aren't bad things. But realizing being the good steward of them because Christ has given them to you. Right. And that's where it's like, that's a good question. Like, you get that gift from the devil, or did Jesus bless you? Like, I feel like there's some real mean, funny coming out of that. But yeah, and some people, I'm going to go out on a ledge, not really a ledge, just a firm foundation, is some people think blessings of the world are from God when they can be used by things like the devil to pull you away from Jesus, right? We can think possessions offer us some sort of security, or a new house, new car, new this, new that, and it's like, no, those are things that can be there to distract you.
Why would Jesus tell the rich young ruler to get rid of everything if that wasn't the case?
Because he knew his heart, right?
Exactly. And so it's like with that, I think about that all the time. I think about it with my wife, my kids. If it was to all be stripped, would I still worship and praise Jesus? And I'd like to think yes.
That's a good question.
I'd love to believe in my heart, yes, right? But like, you don't know what you don't know, so it'd be easy for me to say, if I had a gun to my head, I'd still proclaim Jesus. Like, like we're not in this situation, but it's a good heart check for me, engage of like remembering. Yeah. I'm not promised them tomorrow. I'm not promised them today. Just got to learn on my phone. Multiple crashes on I-25 northbound, right?
No.
Like, now, right? Now I got to experience Albuquerque traffic yesterday for the first time in a while.
It was wild. I pray for you guys.
But so like with that, right? Like, how are we utilizing these things? And just not realizing, it's just Monday, it's just Tuesday, it's just Wednesday. Like, you have a day to disciple your kids, like you said. Like, it's not so much what was the comparison? It's not so much about the games or whatever it is, or travel or whatever it is you were saying. You're like, but I take every time my kids do know who Jesus is. Like we have those times, we have those walks, right? So
I think the big thing with excuses, and this is probably where I'll wrap up because I know, Bryce, you got to go, is in verse 26, that whole thing of which of you wanting to build a tower doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it. I think that you need to sit down and have an honest evaluation of what does it mean to follow Jesus and hear his voice saying, this is going to cost you. But what it will benefit you on the backside is going to be more than you can ever dream, ask, or imagine. And I think so many times this kind of relates to the parable of the seed. What type of soil are you? Are you going to follow Jesus because he sounds real good and this is awesome and I love Jesus and I love Christ and church and all that stuff, and then a hardship comes and you're like, this isn't what I was Jesus didn't promise you that. There is prosperity in following Jesus. Let's just be honest. But prosperity in the sense of you do my commands.
It's not the root of his gospel. Yeah.
And then you'll see a benefit. But if you don't do what I say, you're going to experience what it means to have a Christless faith. But I also think to sit down, calculate the cost, to imagine, like, if I follow Jesus, what is he going to ask me to do? Because he's going to straight up ask you to do some things that are super highly uncomfortable.
Well, let's ask this question.
And then finish the race. That's what I would say. The last one is just finish it.
If it hasn't cost you anything since giving your life to Jesus, right? And that's where I'm like, for those of you, if you're watching and you're like, I grew up in the church, right? I got this, right? I'd be like, do you?
What's changed in the past
what has changed?
10 years or however long?
What does it cost you in following, right? And I think I've been thinking about this a lot because I feel like I run into people who legalize that term of growing up in the church, and I'm like, you're almost insinuating that like you have less sin because of that. And I'm like,
could be, maybe,
right? Like you almost, if not like you should be more aware of yours compared to the average person.
You should know better,
right?
Sure.
So I would, to your question of like sitting down and counting that cost and having that conversation, like it should cost something. And if it hasn't, great time to have that conversation, because I just think of like, yeah.
So you're saying the highlight it for you is you're thinking, hey, I want you to be aware that it's going to cost you something. I want you to be ready when it does cost you something. And then essentially just saying, hey, finish well. Like, do what Jesus asked you to do. And no one arrives. I think we've all said that, right? But I think one of the most alarming things is, what is the saying out there in the world? It's not how you start, but how you finish. Mm-hmm. Verse 30. This man started to build and wasn't able to finish. And I'm like, oh, you can look really well, you can start really well, but little deposits over a long period of time will get rid of a lot of excuses. So that would be my encouragement. I don't know if you want to wrap up anyway.
I don't know, man. I feel like we're
Oh, and I have one more thing. I lied.
Short to your message, because, like, I mean, your second point on this, right? An excuse will only produce a misstep. So I think of a phrase that I've heard you say a lot that sticks in my head is do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long, right? And
thanks, Coach like, Hamilton, Dumas, Texas.
I think, like, how many times do we do it? We try to cut corners and end up having to go back. And for me, like, I've had to do that a lot in life. And so It's like, okay, stop, like, seek him first, go to him first. Like, don't try to think you could do this in your way. It's not your gospel, right? You weren't on that cross. So to think that you have any say in how this is done, friend, you're gonna cause a lot of hurt, harm
to yourself and others,
to yourself and then others as well. Like, and that's where I think like the church does such a poor job at like really hitting home on this, and like the accountability part and the avoiding accountability. Like, I'll never understand how you could walk into a church and it like people can come in and just sit and not do anything, right? And
this is for people who call themselves Christians, because we welcome people who don't call themselves Christians, for sure.
Yes, thank you for that clarity.
Yeah.
But I'm like, do what you're supposed to do. Like I asked this a couple weeks ago. If if the church ran off your back, off your works, off your efforts,
so good,
in all these areas, right? Like, what would this look like? And are we all going to hit 100% on all of them? No, but it makes sense. Like, my foot wasn't created to do what the hand's supposed to do. And so that's why we need each other into doing that. Right. So I don't know, man, like asking those questions and coming to someone and being like, what excuses can you reflect on and be like, ooh, I have a tendency to do that. So maybe I shouldn't do that. The prudence painting, right? This is what you've done. How well has that worked out for you?
Sure.
This is what you're doing. How well do you think that's going to keep going? And where do you want to see yourself? Back to the question that you asked in the beginning, right? Like, is what you're doing right now working?
Yeah.
And as for every Christian,
and what's it worth?
Your evangelism, your discipling, you're being discipled. Well, I'm not a pastor.
It never says you got to be a pastor to disciple.
Where do we see this? And like, you have like Paul, like you see people who are doing it, who are trying to equip other people to do it. That's all we're trying to do here. So if you're watching this, the Spirit's trying to get you to understand or help you get to the next point of next step of like, you too could be doing a podcast, leading a church, planning a church, leading a C group, D group, whatever that may be. Like,
but even let's simplify it: evangelism and discipleship. Just do those two things. Yeah. Evangelism is sharing the story of Jesus with people who don't know it. Discipleship is helping people who already know Jesus to move in the direction of Jesus. I came home and I asked her, so I was like, man, I really wanted to hammer home on this point, but I wasn't sure how it would land or whatever. And it's the point I'm talking about was kind of where exactly you're going. What are you good for? Verse 34. Now, salt is good, but if salt should lose its taste, that tells us salt has a purpose, a design, and all this stuff. It says how it will be made salty. Verse 35. You can think of it in worldly terms. This is what my wife, Crystal, said. She says, you should have said this. Let them think about this, because you can't say it as a pastor. I know you really want to. I said, I really wanted to. And I think you know where I'm going to go from here. It says, it isn't fit for the soil or for the manure pile. What did Jesus literally just say?
You ain't worth crap.
You ain't worth crap. And our minds automatically went to something else. And we've heard it. And I've been told this. My coaches all said that. Man, you ain't worth you. This is it. This is Jesus telling you, don't be someone who's not worth crap. Like you need to run into.
Can you say that? It says it here.
Like, yeah, obviously,
layman's terms.
My fleshly response thinks of something else, and I think all of us does. But I couldn't tell you how many times I'm like, wait, all these people who don't know Jesus know that a person who doesn't do what they set out to do is worth crap. This is something that's innately built into us, that we need to matter. You want to matter? Do what you say. Do what you believe. Do what Jesus told you to do, and watch your life be true.
You're onto something there. Do what Jesus called you to do. Yeah. And if not, you'll end up like do-do. Or worse than do-do.
Sorry, if we're immature for that and you don't like that, I'm not sorry, but it says it
Let
right
anyone
here,
who has ears to hear listen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's Jesus. So I love this passage. I probably could go a couple more sermons off of it, but I really want our church to get to the place where we are just rocking and rolling. We take opportunities, we make opportunities to say,
stop with the excuses.
Yeah, stop with the excuses and just say, God, let me be used. Crystal and I had someone text us last night, and they were like, this is what God has been doing in our lives. And it was not a novel, but it was a long text, and I was like, just thankful and grateful to this couple who just wants to be missionaries to their friends in their neighborhood, and they're hope dealers, and I'm just very proud. So way to go. You know who you are. Keep going. Keep inspiring. Let's keep celebrating what God is doing and see what happens.
I think of verse 34 and how many different things, man. Like, you can go and study like the goodness of salt.
Yeah.
And like, I heard a pastor, I think, give a short glimpse of it one time of just its overall purposes, especially back in the older days before we had refrigerators and things like that. And so I'm like, that if you're looking for an interesting study, go and check that out as to why he's comparing or using the analogy of salt here. Yeah.
Salt ain't good when it stops losing its taste.
If we can go a week without people, it reminds me of that movie, was it Yesterday? I don't know how worldly it is. I've only seen parts of it.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't say no. He's a person who's always saying no or coming up with excuses. And
that's a great illustration.
He takes one day to just say yes to everything, and the things that he did and the fears that he overcame. And
what if
fun he had.
There's a challenge.
If we just took a week, if AwakenNM.Church, of God's church, God's people just took a week of no longer
to say
giving
yes to
excuses
him.
and saying yes to him, not the world, not your spouse, not your kids, to him. And think about this. This is kind of cool, because who benefits from you saying yes to Christ, but all those other things that you say yes to before him.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's good. Well, so we'll leave you that. That's a good challenge. Go say yes. Just when you,
To him.
To Jesus. He's never going to ask you to do anything outside of his word.
Yeah.
But when you hear that voice, that still small voice, don't be like the Israelites who wandered around in the wilderness.
harden their hearts.
So, all right. We love you guys. Hope you have a great week of worship. We'll see you on Sunday as we continue on in our series, When Godly People Do Ungodly Things. Have a great week of worship.
Doodles.